Hey there, and welcome back to another What If review. And obviously, as you may have realised, there are no new episodes of the first season of What If. So today, to help ease my grief at having no new What If content to watch, I thought I'd talk about the first season as a whole and give my thoughts on the way it played out, as well as what it could lead to for the future of Marvel content. And honestly, coming into the first season, I was a little uncertain. I knew it would probably be good because the MCU hasn't had a dud since the release of Thor: The Dark World. Like, seriously, for the most part, everything's been at minimum enjoyable. Not everything's been great, but I don't think anything's been borderline unwatchable or boring at the very least. So I knew coming into this that there'd be a very good chance that this would be good at the very worst. But I did still have some concerns. Would Marvel be able to capture the unique feel of the MCU in animated format? Would the live action actors even be able to do adequate voiceover work? Would the episodes all start to blend together and feel a little too samey? And honestly, for the most part, I think these issues were largely avoided. Each episode, regardless of its overall tone and storyline, was pretty much able to capture the cheeky wit, absurd humour, crazy adventure, and balls to the wall action of the live action MCU. And I don't think I came away from any episode feeling like it was bad or a waste of time. I think a big highlight of all the episodes was the action, which is good because imagine a superhero film with a bad fight scene. It would have just ruined everything. And I think the best part about the action was that it was diverse. In Captain Carter's episode, the action was kind of cartoonish and over the top, as if it came from the pages of a comic book. In the Evil Ant-Man episode, it was dark and violent and honestly pretty creative. In the Ultron episodes, it was fast-paced and intense, and in the zombie episode, it was brutal and bleak. The way in which the fights were presented and played out were just all so different, and I think that helped keep things fresh and exciting. Just like how the different MCU films tend to do things a little bit differently each time to achieve that same effect. But then, on the flip side, one of my concerns did play out how I expected. The quality of voice acting was really not up to snuff. Yes, there were a number of really good performances like Chris Hemsworth as Party Thor, but also a number of bad ones that felt quite jarring and took you out of the moment. And I'm thinking of Sebastian Stan here, sorry mate, whose first line in the Captain Carter episode was truly awful and took me out of it completely. But beyond having bad performances, there were just a lot of average voice performances by the main cast who clearly haven't done that much voice stuff before and didn't sound quite right. I'm not saying it ruined my enjoyment or anything like that, but it was jarring to jump between different characters who all had varying levels of voice acting quality. I mean, at times it sounded like a fan dub. A bad fan dub. And for a show that is part of one of the most successful media franchises of all time, funded by the most successful media company of all time, I feel like it's a lot less forgivable than if it was some obscure cartoon or the first creation of a new company. We know that these people are good enough actors, so why were some performances so stilted and alien sounding? It's like they were just reading the script, did a single take, and then said, good enough. Oh well. And on top of that, I feel like the episodes were a bit too short. I realize it would be a lot of work to have longer episodes, but I feel like 20 odd minutes really isn't enough to tell an adequate story, especially an alternate universe story where you kind of want to flesh out those butterfly effect changes instead of charging through the story at breakneck speeds. But I think where the show really triumphed and flourished was managing to keep the episodes feeling fresh and unique, with each episode having a different tone and feel. Captain Carter was a very comic book-esque story. T'Challa in space and Party Thor felt like a parody. Crazy Ant-Man was like a spy thriller kind of deal. Doctor Strange is a tragedy. Killmonger's a revenge story. And Ultron and the zombies are basically post-apocalyptic worlds. Obviously different types of post-apocalyptic worlds, but still similar at their core. And whilst all these episodes all felt different, they were also all linked together so well and created a season that gradually escalated in its seriousness, with each episode being more bleak than the last, until you get to Party Thor as the palate cleanser, before the big Ultron 2-part finale. And as for the actual interlinking storyline, I think that was actually really well done. At first, as I watched through all the episodes, I wasn't really sure if there was gonna be an actual story arc that ties everything together, or if it was just gonna be a standalone anthology type of deal. And I think it took me until probably episode 4, the Doctor Strange episode where the Watcher actually interacts with what's happening and talks directly to Doctor Strange as the universe collapses, to kind of clue in that there was actually gonna be a story, and it was gonna revolve largely around the Watcher deciding he needs to intervene. And I also really liked that in the end, the primary villain was Ultron. I feel like out of all the iconic Marvel villains, he was the one that really got shortchanged the most in his movie. It really made him feel like a bit of a B-lister, and I think he found new life in this version of his character, especially once he took the Infinity Stones off Thanos' bisected corpse. His interactions with the characters he battled against were really engaging, and his fight scenes with Captain Marvel, the Watcher, and then the Guardians of the Multiverse were really exciting. Although I wasn't a fan of how he got beaten so cheaply in the end. Still don't understand how an arrow could possibly pierce his eye, but whatever. The upload thing by Zola was still really cool regardless. But that being said, I do have to wonder, after the glory that was the Ultron saga of What If, what's left for next season? Are they going to have another multiversal level threat, or just have a different villain do a two-parter finale in a single timeline? I think I kind of like the concept of recycling villains that maybe got the short end of the stick, and even maybe having heroes become villains for this show. So honestly, I think there's a lot of different directions they could go, and I think an evil Captain Marvel might actually be a pretty exciting concept to explore, and it would be a really exciting twist for next season. But anyway, that brings us to the end of the review, and yeah, Season 1 of What If really over-delivered on its expectations to me. I know there were some problems with the season, with some people finding the episodes too short and the writing uninspired, and noticing that sometimes the animation, in particular the lip syncing, was really not up to snuff for a top-level production. But ultimately, I think both the individual and overarching story is what made the season a success, and really makes me excited for both another season of What If, or even more different animated MCU stories going forward. I mean, wouldn't it be fun to have some spin-offs for some of these alternate worlds, like Captain Carter and Hydra Stomper laying waste to modern-day Hydra/S.H.I.E.L.D.? Or maybe Party Thor having his next big rager? Hell, maybe even continue on with that Murdered Avengers storyline. There's just so many different ideas to choose from. With that being said, those are just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the season? Like it? Hate it? Think there were areas to improve? What would you do for next season? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.